Okay, we're doing lesson 4.8, complex numbers, and the objective is to identify, graph, and perform operations with complex numbers. And we're going to find complex number solutions of quadratic equations. I want to just back up for a second before we introduce complex numbers, and we're going to look at the equation x squared equals 9. And if I were to ask you what value of x would make that equation true, Ms. Hatfield, what would be an obvious answer?
3.
3, right? Obviously, if you square 3, you're going to get 9. So we have x equals 3. There's another number that would work. And what is that?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. Good job. So we get x equals 3 and negative 3. And remember, when we're solving these, you're just taking the square root of both sides. But when you are solving for x and you introduce the square root, you have to introduce that positive and negative. And that's why we're getting the plus or minus 3. Well, if we had this problem to begin instead, x squared equals negative 9, we could sit here all day long and try to think of a number that we could square and get a negative number. And many of you might want to say right away, oh, it's negative 3. Well, that's not true, because if I square negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. So if we were to go and introduce the square root, I would get x equals plus or minus the square root of a negative number. And up until now, if we had that situation, we would have written no solution. There isn't an x value that works for that. Well, the more accurate is there's no real solution, because mathematicians wouldn't stop there if they had that problem. And as they were solving problems in real life applications, they would end up with a scenario where they had a negative under the radical. Well, to get through this, they have defined the imaginary unit. And the imaginary unit is our first concept, and that how they defined it is they said I, which is your imaginary unit, if you square that, I squared, it equals negative 1. And so we can now solve a radical that has a negative underneath the square root. And so as you continue to look at this, if I squared equals negative 1, then I, the imaginary unit, has to equal the square root of negative 1. And so that's what we're going to be using to solve square roots of a negative number. So I'm going to just move right into new concept. Square root of a negative number, if for any positive number a, my stylus isn't working very good here, sorry. For any positive number a, square root of negative a equals the square root of negative 1 times a, and then you can break that out as a product of two square roots. So square root of negative 1 by definition, again, remember, is I, your imaginary unit. It equals I square root of a. So for example, if we had square root of negative 7, we would write I square root of 7. If we had square root of negative 9 then, like we did up above, since 9 is a perfect square, we can actually take the square root of this one, and you're just going to write 3i.
Problem 1, how do you write the square root of a negative 24 using the imaginary unit I? So we're going to break up that square root of a negative 24 to the square root of a negative 4 times the square root of 6. And then we're going to break down the square root of a negative 4. And then we're going to have 2i square root of 6.
Great.
Okay.
Yep, just get in the habit, if you got negative under the radical, you just have to pull out the negative as an I.
Yeah, so you don't want to ever leave a negative sign underneath the radical. All right, some new concepts that we are going to have here are imaginary number, written as a plus bi. A and b are real numbers, and b cannot equal 0. Complex number, a plus bi. And then pure imaginary number, a equals 0, b does not equal 0. A plus bi is equal to bi. Remember, a was equal to 0.
Okay, and then we're going to talk about the complex number plane. And so if you have a complex number a plus bi, in the complex number plane, it's just the ordered pair ab. So you can just plot that point, and that's how you plot your complex number. In in that case, the horizontal axis is your real axis. Axes, am I saying that weird? I think I am. Real axis. How do you say it? Axes.
Axis.
Axis? All of a sudden it
Axes
sounds
is
really weird.
plural.
Plural. Vertical axis is your imaginary axis. That's your B value that has to do with the imaginary part of your complex number. So if you were to, we're going to do some plotting down in problem 2. And I'm going to actually just kind of bop down there real quick and plot like the first one, just so that we can see what we're doing. So if you look at part 2A, we want to plot the ordered pair 1, -3, because A is 1 and B is -3. So if I were to plot that complex number, I'm going to go to the right one and down 3. And my picture there, my coordinate plane, the lines are really funky. I don't know if it looks funky to you, but mine is really funky on here.
Yeah.
Like there's certain dark ones and light ones, so I don't know if that's coming out that way. But that's really as simple as that, just plotting that ordered pair. Now we use that concept to figure out the absolute value of a complex number. And the formula for absolute value of a plus bi ends up being the square root of a squared plus b squared. So I want to talk a little bit about how that formula comes about. And remember, absolute value of just a real number is the distance from 0 on a number line. Absolute value of a complex number then is the distance from the origin, or 0, 0. So the distance of the point AB from 0, 0, from the origin. So let's do a quick visual here. Here's my real axes. Here's my imaginary axes. If I were to plot this complex number a plus bi, this length here going from on my x-axis would be a length of a. The vertical length here would be b, and we're trying to find the distance from 0, 0 to that complex number. And so you can see, if you were to either use the distance formula or literally the Pythagorean theorem, you would end up with this length to be a squared plus b squared. So hopefully you're comfortable with the Pythagorean theorem and can see how that would work. So that's how we get up, oh, excuse me, it's a square root of that, sorry.
Okay.
Square root of that value, so that's how that,
So can we just show them what problem letter B is? -4 plus I.
yep, how we, do we need to find, oh, and they want us to find the absolute value. So how about if we find the absolute value of A also? Because we
Okay,
plotted
okay,
it, but now
let's-
we're going to
all right.
go. So you
All right.
want to talk us through how we're going to do that?
Sure. All right, so the absolute value is given by the square root of a squared plus b squared. A is going to equal 1, and b is going to equal a -3.
Make sure you put -3 in parentheses when you're
Yep.
putting it in that formula.
So the square root of 1 squared is going to be 1, -3 squared is going to be 9, and 1 plus 9 is 10 then, under that square root sign. And that would be our absolute value. So you're calculating the distance from the origin to that point.
Good. So moving on to B, what point would we plot for that complex number?
Okay, so we're going to plot the point -4, 1. -4 is the real part, 1 is the imaginary part.
Okay.
And then if I want to do absolute value, I'm going to take the square root of, now remember, in parentheses, -4 squared plus 1 squared. And that's going to be the square root of 17.
Good,
Okay.
and that's your final answer there.
Problem 3 says what each sum or difference. And what we're going to do is basically combine like terms here. So in letter A, if I add up all of my constants, 2 plus a -3, and that would equal a -1. And then I have 1i plus 3i, which would be 4i. So my answer is a -1 plus 4i. In letter B, I've got 5 plus 5, and that's 10. And then I plus a -i would equal 1.
Or 0i, right?
Or 0i, I'm sorry, 0i. So then we just end up with an answer of 10. And in letter C, making sure that I distribute that negative sign, the subtraction sign there can act as a negative sign. So that would equal a negative 6 minus 2i minus 4 and minus 2i. Combining like terms, negative 6 plus 4 is a negative 2. And
I had
negative,
-6 minus 4.
oh, I'm sorry, see? And then
That's
I make the
good.
mistake. Good for you guys to see. Negative 6 minus 4 is a negative 10. And negative 2i minus 2i is a negative 4i.
Good, so we're just adding the real part together and then adding the imaginary part together.
Yep, and that's combining like terms, although really we don't want you to think in terms that way.
All right, so now problem 4, what is each product? The big deal with that is whenever you end up with I squared, you should replace it with -1. So replace I squared with -1. And that's just because that's how I squared is defined. So on part A, I'm going to distribute the I, and you're left with -4i, and then you get a plus 8i squared. I squared times I squared is an I, excuse me, I times I is I squared. So then you're left with -4i plus 8 times a -1. And then I'm going to put this in complex form a plus bi, so I get -8 minus 4i. Put the real part first, the imaginary part second. Part B, you got a binary kind of by times a binary, so we're going to FOIL. So first, I'm going to get -20. Outside, I'm going to get -15i. Inside, we'd get a positive 28i. And last, you're going to get a plus 21i squared. And now again, we're going to replace I squared with a -1. So this 21i squared turns into a -21. At this point, then I'm just going to combine the real part. -20 and -21 is -41. And then we'll finish off and combine the imaginary part. You get -15i and a positive 28i, and you get plus 13i. And so that's your final answer for problem 4. If you leave I squared in an answer, we're going to take some points off. You need to replace I squared always with -1. Okay, so I see the time's getting a little long on this video, so we're going to stop on this video and we'll pick up with a part 2 of 4.8.